Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today I want to talk about an issue in my home state of Ohio that I am actually extremely passionate about. Now, I don't typically make videos really talking about the things that are happening here in my home state of Ohio. I know a lot of you don't really live here or have never been here. You probably think we're all just a bunch of meth heads and cornfield addicts and whatnot. I get it, but the issue at hand here is one that not only Ohio is facing, it's one that the entirety of the United States is facing. And I think more Americans really need to actually get involved in these kinds of situations. More people need to voice their support across the board for issues and initiatives like this, because the more that we just sit around and increase the hellscape that is car-dependent suburbia in America, just adding more lanes to interstates that do nothing but congest traffic even more, the more that we make our society dependent on people having a car to drive in order to do things, the more unhappy we become, the less economically viable a lot of things become. It's not a good idea. It's not a good approach. We've been trying it for decades and it hasn't been working out. So here in my home state of Ohio, the vast majority of our state is not serviced by any sort of public rail option, which in a first world country, in the 7th largest state, in one of the most economically and politically important states in the union, is actually pathetic. Public transportation in the United States has been overlooked for far too long. Americans, we piss and moan constantly about traffic. If you live in any sort of major metropolitan with probably more than even 25,000 people in it, there's a good chance you have to deal with some sort of traffic. And if you live in like a seriously major metro with, like 250,000 people or more, yeah, you're looking at actual gridlock traffic. For instance, here in the state of Ohio, there are a couple different places in the state that I absolutely would rather actually die than drive through. Trying to drive the outer belt in Columbus during any time after about 2:30 p.m. to about 9 o'clock p.m. is actually suicide-inducing. Trying to drive anywhere near 70 to 75 in the Miami Valley of Ohio is actually garbage. Driving down 75 through Dayton is horrible. Driving through 71 anywhere in the state where there's a major metro is actually horrible. Driving anywhere in Cincinnati on the highway after about 2 p.m. is horrible. But yet, America is becoming more and more car-dependent over time. Like, we all see these issues, we all see these problems, and nobody, it seems like, really is jumping on board to do something about it. Well, as Ohioans, we actually do have a solution to this problem that actually will help us in the long run. And not only is it the right thing to do to solve a lot of the traffic congestion issues in a lot of our major metropolitan areas, but it's the right thing to do in terms of economic impact for the state, environmental impact for the state, and to increase collaboration in the state. So here in the state of Ohio, there is a proposed Amtrack line. And I know a lot of people hear Amtrak and they're like, oh, Amtrak isn't good, it's not true high-speed rail. Amtrak may not be as great maybe as some of the other rail options around the world and whatnot, but it's better than nothing, I will say, and we already have a pretty decent Amtrak infrastructure in the country, but a good portion of Ohio is not served by Amtrak whatsoever. I mean, it runs through the northern and the southern portions of the state. Cleveland and Toledo are connected through a line, up with Chicago and Detroit and whatnot, and Cincinnati, I think, is also connected to Amtrak, but for instance, Columbus, which is the largest metropolitan area in the state of Ohio, the state capital itself, home of the Ohio State University, home to 2 major airports in the state, is not serviced whatsoever by the Amtrak line. There is no actual direct rail connection between Cincinnati, Columbus, and Cleveland, which are the 3 major metropolitan areas in the state. So I want to go ahead and break down a little bit of the facts of the matter here on why this is actually a good proposal, why more Ohioans should be behind it, and then I'm going to explain to you why this is larger than an Ohio issue and why more Americans need to be demanding better rail access and better public infrastructure in general in other states, because there's a lot of other high-speed and other rail initiatives that are going on around the country right now that, they've been stalled for some reason, or maybe there isn't enough actual support for them yet. And the more that America actually opens up to the idea of getting us back on rail, the better it's going to be here in this country. Trust me on that. So despite being less than 250 miles apart, the last time Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati were connected directly by rail was in 1967. The 3 cities, commonly referred to as the 3 Cs, are the largest in the state of Ohio. Columbus's metropolitan area is home to over 2 million residents, making it the 2nd largest metropolitan area in the country without Amtrak service. According to the United States Bureau of Labor Statistics, since 2000, Columbus has added over 200,000 jobs to its economy, and Cincinnati has added over 100,000 jobs in the same time period. period. Amtrak's vision would turn both Cincinnati and Cleveland into new hubs for Amtrak service, in addition to the existing long-distance trains that operate through Ohio, the Capital Limited, Cardinal, and Lakeshore Limited. The following improved services are included in Amtrak's vision. Cincinnati to Chicago will add 4 daily round trips, Cleveland to Detroit will add 3 daily round trips, and Cleveland to New York City will add 2 daily round trips. These new rail connections would improve mobility for underserved communities and provide reliable and efficient transportation to education and employment opportunities along the route. Connections would be available to Cleveland's RTA light rail system, Columbus's CODA system, and Cincinnati's Metro system. The proposed route would serve dozens of colleges and universities and would connect 18 Fortune 500 companies. So the fact of the matter is, there are millions of Ohioans that are not directly connected by rail service, and as a result of not being connected directly by rail service, their rail service to other major metropolitans in the Midwest and even in the East are just not there, or they're way longer than they need to be, way more convoluted than they need to be, way harder than it should be. Now, there would be 3 daily round trips along the 3Cs plus D line because it would actually cut to the west in Columbus. It would go through the Miami Valley down into Dayton and then down into Cincinnati. So it would be about a 5.5-hour trip from Cincinnati to Cleveland with all the stops. Driving that usually would probably take you anywhere from 3 to 4 hours if you stop. So it would take a lot longer to some people. Personally, for me, I am willing to sacrifice a little bit of time to have more options. If I can drive from Dayton to Columbus in an hour and a half, but I can also take the Amtrak train from there to there in an hour and 45 minutes, chances are I will genuinely consider taking the train. And that is the plan. Eventually they would like to get it to a standard to where it will be competitive with driving in terms of the train time. So this would directly connect 18 Fortune 500 companies, dozens of colleges and universities, millions of Americans and Ohioans in these metropolitans that it would serve. And on top of that, the annual economic impact is projected to be $129.6 million for the state of Ohio. The projected cost to build this line is $100 million. So think about it like this. The state of Ohio, we can invest $100 million into infrastructure that actually benefits the public. And within a year, we might already have that money back and then some in surplus with economic impact. Over 10 years at that rate, that would be $1.3 billion in economic impact for the state of Ohio across numerous communities, many of which are underserved. And not only would this benefit people in Ohio directly, it would benefit people in Ohio and outside of Ohio trying to do interstate travel. With added lines from Cincinnati to Chicago, Cleveland to Detroit, and Cleveland to New York City, this just improves the public infrastructure for people in other areas. I mean, people from New York will benefit from a, rail line built in Ohio. There will be more daily round trips. You want to go to Cleveland or, take the NYC train to Cleveland and then take the Cleveland train to Cincinnati or whatever, right? Like, there's more options for people. People in Illinois, people in Michigan, people in all these different areas are going to benefit from this being built. This is larger than just the state of Ohio. This type of project has the potential to create economic impact and benefits for people that are widespread. And also, too, a good portion of this line runs through what's called the 90-minute market. This 90-minute market means that you are a 90-minute flight away from 55% of the total US population. It's literally a no-brainer. I mean, let's go ahead and just address the topic of, traffic, right? The interstate I-71, okay, it runs from Cleveland down through Columbus all the way down to Cincinnati, kind of cuts the state in half like diagonally or whatever. I-71 in Cincinnati is the 6th most congested highway in the country as of 2019, according to the American Transportation Research Institute. The 6th most congested highway in the country. This line is an actual direct alternative to I-71 altogether. It runs literally down through the state in the same fashion. It connects all of the same communities and more. Amtrak estimates that this route with 3 daily round trips would carry an estimated 400 to 500,000 passengers annually, or, to break it down even more, between 1 and 2,000 people per day. Think about that. That is 1 to 2,000 less cars that are sitting on highways in gridlock traffic, blocking up the road, driving too slow, causing traffic issues, getting in car accidents, idling their cars, causing emissions into the atmosphere, which benefits people who want to drive. Like, I understand people who love cars. I love driving too. I love my car too. Wouldn't it be better if we didn't have to sit in gridlock fucking traffic because everybody has to drive their car? Wouldn't it be awesome if the people people who don't want to drive could get on a train and go somewhere, and then we can drive on the road. It benefits everyone. Like the people who don't even want to ride the train, that's the argument for a lot of people. Like, oh, I don't want to fucking federally fund trains and stuff like that. I don't want to ride the train. Okay, well, you still benefit from it because the people who do want to ride the train aren't on the road anymore. And now you have an option in case your car doesn't work or something, you can still get the fuck around. Like, it's actually sad that in Ohio, we actually cannot travel between major metropolitans by train. You have to have a car in pretty much all situations unless you want to get like a bus or something. It should not be that hard. It shouldn't be that difficult. And this isn't even just an Ohio issue. I mean, I'm talking about this one in specific because, you know, I live in Ohio, but there's rail proposals in Texas and California and in plenty of other areas. I mean, even federally, the issue of building a high-speed rail network throughout the country is starting to gain a lot more traction. And even to the point where, according to a survey from the American Public Transportation Association, 62% of nearly 25,000 adults surveyed said they would, quote, probably or definitely use high-speed rail if it were an option. So the majority of Americans surveyed about this would say they would use it and support it. The economic impact is supposed to be absolutely phenomenal compared to the investment we make. It gives everybody an option. It's environmentally conscious. It solves some of our traffic problems that we have, and it opens up new possibilities for collaborations and whatnot. It's like actually a no-brainer. The only downside is, yeah, we got to spend $100 million or so, maybe more if it goes over budget. But what's funny is actually in Ohio, we had passed a bill back in like 2010 for $400 million to go towards a rail proposal for the state. But then Republican Governor John Kasich ended up nixing the idea because he was worried that the taxpayers would have to subsidize it. So this plan costs a quarter of what our plan 15 years ago was going to cost, should pay for itself relatively quickly, and most people support it. Why is this not being done? Why are we not moving forward with this? More Americans need to realize that the sooner we as a country address our transportation problems, the better. I mean, our infrastructure is crumbling, man. You should not have to have a car to travel long distances. I'm sorry, you shouldn't. Like, we live in the year 2023. We have destroyed the passenger rail system in our country. We already had all of the groundwork done. We already had the rail network set up, but we've let it go to the wayside and abandoned it. But we cannot continue to let the rest of the world outpace us and make us look fucking stupid like this. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel, follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubTheOptimus. Make sure to check out Shoptimus down below. Thank you to my Watch Optimus subscribers. Your support helps the channel tremendously. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, calling for Ohio to build the Amtrak 3C plus D corridor, and signing out.